isn't just a story about crime. It's a story about frustration. It's a story about protest. It's about pain. And it's about a broken healthcare system. It's about how society is failing to care for its people. You hear a CEO gunned down in Manhattan, and your brain automatically fills in the blanks. Maybe it's a robbery. Maybe it's a personal vendetta. Maybe a disgruntled ex-employee. But when the news broke, that suspect may have been driven by health-related frustration. I don't know about you, but I really had to pause. Welcome to the Imagine Greater podcast. I'm Michelle Bethel Gibson, your host for this amazing podcast. So who am I? First and foremost, I am a thought leader. I'm a leader that always wants to see things, how things could have been better, how things could have believed better, how things could have been said better, how things could have been imagined greater for a greater experience, right? And don't we all want that? I'm a business owner of a number of businesses that range from shipping and logistics to customs clearing to trucking to speaking and coaching. I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm also a mom who loves children. I have 4 children, one who's gone to be with the Lord, and 3 bonus amazing children whom I love so much. I am a widower. My husband passed last year, but I'm still excited about how life could have been imagined in a better way. But today I come to you in my newest role as a podcaster, where we'll be addressing unfiltered realities, where we dive into stories that challenge our perceptions, that push us to think critically and remind us that life rarely is black and white. Now today's episode is a heavy one, where we're talking about a case of Luigi Nicholas Mangione. He's a 26-year-old Towson, Maryland native. He was valedictorian of the Ivy League graduate and a man accused of murdering who? CEO Brian Thompson of the United Healthcare. This isn't just a story about crime. It's a story about frustration. It's a story about protest. It's about pain. And it's about a broken healthcare system. It's about how society is failing to care for its people. And this reality creates desperate and dangerous consequences. Let's get into it. Let's unpack this story. So when I first heard about this Mangione case, I was like most people. My first thought was, wow, another shooting, another tragedy. You hear a CEO gunned down in Manhattan, and your brain automatically fills in the blanks. Maybe it's a robbery. Maybe it's a personal vendetta. Maybe a disgruntled ex-employee. But when the news broke, that suspect, Luigi Mangione, may have been driven by health-related frustration. I don't know about you, but I really had to pause. I really had to thought and say, what? Wait. This isn't about money or revenge in traditional sense. This is about pain, about psychological and emotion. What? That really hit me different. So who is Luigi Mangione? He was born May 6, 1998. He was smart, top of his class, earned both a bachelor's and a master's degree at the University of Pennsylvania. Not your typical suspect, right? But on December 4th, 2024, Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was shot and killed outside New York, Hilton, Midtown Manhattan. The shooter wore a mask and fled the scene. A manhunt ensued. 5 days later, Mangione was found at McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He was in possession of a ghost gun. A ghost gun? Several fake IDs, and the most damning of all, a manifesto. In it, he laid out bare his deep resentment toward the healthcare insurance industry. Now, what was his motive? I mean, really, what would be Luigi Mangione's motive? So what pushed someone like him to do something like this to take another man's life. He wasn't even a United Healthcare customer, but he was living with a lower back injury, a spinal disorder causing chronic pain. From all reports, he was deeply isolated, no romantic or social life, no close friends. And here's the thing about chronic pain, it doesn't just hurt your body, it wraps your mind. Your relationships suffer, it warps your mind. Your relationships suffer, your sleep suffers, your ability to think clearly, to cope, to hope. It takes you from a place of hope and it leave you with a place of despair. So Mangione reportedly spent a lot of time reading and obsessing over the healthcare system. What do you do when you're idolized, right? When you're isolated, right? He idolized parts of Ted Kaczynski's anti-industrial manifesto. Though he was clear that he didn't condone violence against innocents. Kaczynski didn't condone violence, but in Mangione's isolation, he took on his own manifesto. Still in his mind, Brian Thompson wasn't innocent because Brian Thompson had led United Healthcare through an explosive financial growth. Listen, revenue soared to $281 million. Let's just pause for that. CEO Brian Thompson took it from where? $12 billion to $281 billion. That's billions with a B, people. But that success came with criticism. United Healthcare denied Medicare claims, and those whose claims were granted were caught up in bureaucratic red tape. There were Senate investigations. And listen, so get this picture. Mangione is isolated. He's in chronic pain. His mental health may even be challenged. And he has time. He has time. So he's watching from both sides. He's watching from the sidelines. And maybe he saw Thompson as the face of the system. I mean, let's face it, when you did $281 billion, that will get a lot of people's attention. But maybe his mind was taking him to Thompson's life was a form of protest, a tragic, horrifying trade-off. Because he's like, I'm in pain. You're making all this money. You're seemingly the face of the healthcare system. Maybe it's an even trade. What do you think? So let's get to the legal and ethical part of this. Now, the case itself has layers. Mangione's defense team is fighting hard. They argue that his DNA was illegally obtained. Interesting. Police allegedly, they say, gave him snacks during the detention to get his saliva. He was not read his Miranda rights. There was no probable cause for the arrest. Interesting. And on top of that, this case also already so public, media coverage has been intense. Everything from growing sympathy pieces to the character assassination that raises serious questions. Can any jury be objective? Can any jury be objective? Is what his defense is arguing. So what is the public saying about this, and what is the cultural impact? You see, this story has sparked debate from some people. While no one is defending the murder, there's empathy that with frustration, with over 722,000 has been donated. 722,000 has been donated toward Mangione's legal defense. In fact, one donor has given $36,500. And that tells us something, right? We're not just dealing with a man's crime. We're dealing with society's collective pain. Who hasn't, raise your hand out there, who hasn't experienced some type of serious, intense pain? Whether it was a toothache, whether it was a lower back pain, whether it was some type of health scare, or even if it wasn't you, it was a family member. So you know exactly the challenges of dealing with the healthcare, right? It's a system that too often feels like it values profits over people. And haven't you thought that yourself? A healthcare system where paperwork matters more than pain and survival sometimes feels like a luxury. But let's not forget Brian Thompson was a real person. He had a family. He was a leader. He was a father. He was a husband. He was a professional. Despite criticism, tried to navigate one of the most complex industries in America. He acknowledged problems and wanted to fix them. He didn't deserve to die. So what's left? What's left with this? We're left with a mirror held up to our healthcare system, our justice system, our mental health crisis. This wasn't just a murder. This was a collapse of a man, of compassion, of a public trust. Luigi Mangione must have held accountable. It must be held, we know, accountable his actions. No pain, no injustice, no broken system justifies taking another person's life. Nothing could justify taking another person's life. So, how could we have imagined this greater? What if instead of choosing violence, Luigi Mangione could have had been met with a different kind of justice? What if corporate leaders, mental health professionals, legal system work together to create accountability, not just for individuals, but for institutions? Let's reimagine a story that Luigi Mangione, after years of loyal service, is suddenly led off by silver tech industries under circumstances he believes not only unfair, but deeply personal. Instead of being left to spiral alone with his grief and anger, he was offered support. Imagine this. Upon termination, Luigi's connected to a career transition coach. Imagine that. Part of a new initiative by the Silver Tech's HR department. One born out of a company's commitment to responsibility offboarding. He also referred to a mental health counselor. He could also have taken part in a pilot program designed to support emotional toil on the job. Let's face it, he was hurting. He had a chronic pain. So there could have been any number of these options. And he possibly is not the only one. So he could have been the face of how do we fix a broken system. When someone is suffering from chronic pain, we do not leave them with their pain. We do not leave them in isolation. We collectively come up with solution. A month later, Luigi filed grievances believing his termination was discriminatory. Instead of being dismissed, his concerns triggered an internal review and an independent arbitration process, one that gives voice to employees who feel unheard. That's what could have happened. In this version of the story, CEO Brian Thompson is an untouchable executive. His leaders' accountability to the system around him. When patterns of executive misconduct begin to surface, the board steps in, right? Shouldn't the board have stepped in and investigated this drastic move from $12 billion to $281 billion? Investigation could have been launched. Transparency becomes the norm, not the exception. Luigi should never feel like violence would have been the only option for him, because he would have been given another option. He's not consumed by a need for revenge, because he could have been given a counselor where he could have vented his frustration, and a career coach who would have guided him along a path that would have taken a different turn, because he would have received something powerful. He would have received validation. He would have received support. He would have received a path forward. Now, this isn't just a story made in headlines, but it's a story we could write. If we rethink how we feel with workplace trauma and injustice and power, this isn't just one man's breaking point. It's about the cracks in the system that led him there. And haven't you thought of it in some way yourself? Luigi Mangione didn't have to become a headline. Brian Thompson didn't have to become a victim. And we as society don't have to keep repeating these patterns. Let's imagine greater. Let's build systems where people don't fall through the crack, where justice doesn't come from a gun, but from humanity. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for leaning in. Thank you for listening. It has truly been my pleasure for us to have imagined an horrific situation in a better way. Once again, I want you to imagine greater, where our motto is belief drives behavior. Believe differently, believe for better outcome, and see the world in a better way. Bye for now.